Howdy everyone, my name is Fatima Wood, and the media news flash for this week, I'll be talking about Amazon's recent acquisition of MGM for about $8.5 billion and what this could potentially mean for the future of the streaming platform as well as the film industry. So just some quick background on MGM. It is one of those historic classic Hollywood studios, what we would typically associate with the Big Five. MGM was first formed by the conglomeration of three different corporations, as you can see here. Metro Pictures Corporation, Goldwyn Pictures Corporation, and the Louis B. Mayer Company. And when all those three came together, it became the biggest production, distribution, and exhibition machine in Hollywood. And just to give, again, a little bit more background on how historic it was Louis B. Mayer who first pitched the idea in 1928 for what would become the Academy for Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences. And then in 1951, Mayer himself was ousted from the studio he helped establish, and then pretty much from the 1960s onwards, there were lots of attempts to diversify the studio's offerings by branching out into television or cutting out even some of its overhead, but unfortunately this was the beginning of the end for the studio as leadership constantly passed hands. Now, some of MGM's most popular film franchises is the Hobbit series, the James Bond franchise, and the Rocky films. And for television, it's got The Handmaid's Tale, Teen Wolf, Fargo, Vikings, and recent films include Licorice Pizza, House of Gucci, and Cyrano. Of course, MGM also offers its own premium channel, Epix. When asked in a recent interview, according to The Hollywood Reporter, about why Amazon purchased MGM, Bezos responded that Amazon purchased MGM because of its vast, deep catalog of much beloved intellectual property, and Amazon plans to reimagine and develop that IP for the 21st century. Now, pretty much from the get-go, when Bezos made it known what Amazon's intentions were, complaints were lodged to the Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC, that this acquisition was a violation of antitrust laws, which is something that you should be reading about in this week's chapter. The letter was sent by the Strategic Organizing Center, which is a coalition of unions that includes Teamsters, CWA, and WGA West. And this center said in their letter that this acquisition will harm content creators, eliminating a buyer of writers' content and an outlet for its reuse while increasing the industry's vertical integration and therefore making further consolidation among content producers more likely. Fewer buyers of content means less creativity and choice, and consolidation diminishes writers' leverage against their powerful employers. Lots have also said that Prime Video, Amazon's streaming service, is sort of a bumbling service that is really attempting to bolster its offerings and hopes to do so by purchasing MGM's sort of deep well of intellectual property. And that Amazon is in many ways accused of gatekeeping various industries by eliminating potential threats to its hegemonic rule early on. Now, the FTC is currently in the process of investigating the e-commerce giant, and the MGM acquisition is more or less kindling to the fire, but what's interesting is that the FTC didn't necessarily block this acquisition from happening. Now, in the process of all of this, as I mentioned earlier, Epix is MGM's streaming service and also premium cable network. And Amazon didn't just acquire MGM's historic content library, but also Epix. And the current fear is that Amazon will shut Epix down because it is, in fact, a direct competitor to the Prime Video as a streaming service, and so it's perceived as a threat. In another article by The Hollywood Reporter, Cho states that Epix distributes content from the MGM library to a wide variety of distribution channels. MGM has licensed content to Netflix, HBO Max, and Hulu, in addition to producing original content for other streamers and TV networks. So what this means is that basically now Amazon has the ability to begin pulling MGM content from other streaming platforms and networks. Again, reinforcing sort of the elimination of competition and the harm that this does to both filmmakers and audiences. So just some food for thought as we wrap this up. Consider the ways in which films have been traditionally circulated and distributed since the advent of the moving image. That goes all the way back from classic Hollywood to new Hollywood to now. And there's lots of things going on with streaming platforms that we are seeing in real time. But how specifically does Amazon's acquisition of MGM disrupt these systems? And just ask yourself, do you agree or do you disagree with the Strategic Organizing Center's letter to the FTC about the harm that this situation will cause? Why or why not? Thanks again for tuning in for this week's version of Media Newsflash. Let us know if you have any questions.